The forest was quiet on a summer night around 40,000 BC, but suddenly a ball of fire appeared in the night sky. It grew larger and larger, then crashed into the ground with a huge explosion. A plume of smoke rose into the air, traveling outward, coating the land with a film of dust. A village nearby was coated with this dust. The people woke up with their eyes and lungs stinging. The pain became excruciating, and finally they dropped to the ground unconscious. Every one of them rose again, their skin yellowish and their eyes reddened. A microscopic infection had taken hold of their bodies. They were changed. They no longer felt emotion. They couldn't speak. They only hungered for the warm blood of the creatures around them, including people. They hunted humans and animals alike. Their infection spread to all that could rise and also hunt for blood. When they invaded neighboring tribes, the primitive humans fought back. At first, they thought it was just a hostile tribe attacking them, but soon they recognized their strange condition. The reddened eyes, the yellowish skin. They named them the Matcha, which roughly translated means the monster. When the Matcha attacked a village, it was chaos. They were worse than wolves. Wolves could be killed with a spear or club, but the Matcha kept coming when you stabbed them. The only way to stop them was to stab them through their eye socket with a spear to destroy their brain, or simply to crush their head with a club. The Matcha plague spread across the land until it was hard to find a place that was not terrorized by the Matcha. They were vile creatures that could not be reasoned with. They were best killed before they ripped you to shreds with their hands and teeth. In another village, Karg lay in his tent, sleeping on a large fur. His mouth, which sported a scraggly black beard, twisted and squirmed as he dreamed of drinking clear, clean water, which was rare. His dream was interrupted when he heard women screaming. Karg woke up but didn't open his eyes. He laid awake for a few seconds with his eyes closed. He refused to think the tribe was being attacked, choosing rather to think it was just a part of his dream. But then the screaming continued. Karg's eyes opened wide, and he rolled over to his side, grabbed his battle stick and lifted himself to a standing position. He heard the women's screams out of fear and despair. Then he heard a distinct growling. Some beast was attacking the village. Karg shouted, "Daka!" He ran towards the sound of the growling, holding his battle stick in both hands, ready to swing it. The men of the village were fighting yellow-skinned people. Karg saw a group of Matcha eating at the belly of one of the tribesmen, tearing at him like wolves. He ran at them, and with a carefully aimed swing of his battle stick, the attacker was killed. The other attackers slowly looked up as Karg prepared for a second blow. Smash! A second creature was ended. Karg was a natural-born killer, with incredible upper body strength. He continued to swing his battle stick at the yellow-skinned attackers. One of the women, Benta, held a large branch with fire on the end of it and was fending off many of the attackers. Other village women crouched fearfully behind her. She shouted her rage at them. "Nay, nay!" Karg turned and saw Benta swinging the fire branch at the attackers, but she tripped and fell backward. The attackers saw that and they advanced toward the females. The females saw Karg and screamed at him for help. Karg let out a roar and ran at them, swinging his battle stick back and forth. Arg! One by one, the attackers fell to the blows from Karg's stick. If the infected attackers were still twitching, the other villagers rushed forward and stabbed them through their skulls with wooden spears. When all the attackers were laying motionless, Karg held his stick high and shouted, "Mita!" The villagers shouted and cheered their victory. That night, the villagers gathered around a bonfire. Teenage boys armed with spears kept a lookout at the outskirts of the gathering. Older villagers sat and rested near the bonfire, feasting on a wild boar they had managed to kill and roast. Karg walked in front of the fire to grab a hunk of meat. The women saw Karg and shouted, "Karg!" Karg ripped off a bite of the meat with his teeth, then turned and looked at the villagers who were smiling and showing their appreciation to him. Karg. He started to speak, "Karg Higutawa." Karg made a motion of folding his hands under his head as if he was sleeping. Karg made a high-pitched female voice screaming. Karg suddenly lifted his head and searched with his hand over his eyebrows, as if to look for the source of the cry for help. Then Karg made an angry face and said gruffly, "Karg Daka." He held his arms up, showing his strength. He made a motion as if swinging his battle stick downward. "Kawa, Kawa, Kawa." He did this about 10 times, then he stood motionless and smiled. "Karg Mita." The tribe all chanted Karg. Thus, the legend of Karg began to grow. That night, the village was filled with the sound of sobbing as the people mourned their dead. Karg and the other survivors worked through the night to clean up the aftermath of the attack. The bodies both of the tribe and the yellow-skinned attackers were burned. The survivors were in a state of shock. They had never encountered such a horrible attack before. The women complained loudly and were very unhappy. In the morning, a number of the tribe's women began to pack up their furs. They stored some meat and berries in a sack and then began walking away from the direction that the attackers had come. The men of the tribe woke up and saw the women walking. They quickly grabbed their weapons and began following the women. Thus, the decision was made for the tribe to move on. The land they were living in was no longer safe. As they marched, 3 of the infected came out of the bushes and began moving towards the women. Karg raised his battle stick and shouted, "Daka." As Karg approached them, the infected turned and headed towards him. That was a mistake, because Karg had a proven battle strategy: smash their heads. The infected fell one by one under the strength of Karg's blows. Karg said triumphantly, "Mita." After the 3 infected were put down, the tribe continued its march to safety. Karg and a few men stayed near the front of the pack, ready for more attackers. Apparently, not all the infected were behind them. The tribe approached a huge rocky mountain. A small trail led upward, and the women decided that was the way to go. Could the infected climb? They hoped not. They proclaimed, "Tawa, gone to Tawa," translation up the mountain. The tribe approached a steep rock face of the mountain. It was impossible to climb. As they searched the rocky cliffs, they saw a cave. A man stepped out from the cave and screamed, "Matcha." Other cavemen and women appeared and made gestures to shoo them away. "Matcha, Matcha." Karg said, "No Matcha." But the cave tribe kept shouting, "Matcha." Karg said, "No Matcha, me Karg." The cave tribe became quiet, studying the huge man below. "Karg." "Yes, me Karg." Then the leader of the cave tribe smiled and said loudly, "Karg." The cave women shouted, "Karg, Daka Matcha." So, they welcomed Karg and his tribe, as they knew they needed some strong warriors to help them fight the Matcha. They showed them the secret way to climb the rock face and get to the cave. The cave was a much-needed place for them to hide and rest. One of the cave women said, "Balu Araka Saman," translation, "They should work together as friends and share their fire and share their strength to fight the Matcha." The tribes agreed, and the young men and women practiced combat drills under Karg's supervision. The women of Karg's tribe worried as their food supplies were running out. The cave women said, "Chak ul," translation, "We can go gather food." Some of the cave women showed fear on their faces, knowing that if they left the safety of the cave, they risked attack. This was told to Karg, and Karg commanded 5 of his best warriors to accompany the women as they gathered food. Early in the morning, the cave women ventured out of the cave to places on the mountain where they knew plants, berries, and nuts could be gathered. As the women gathered berries, Karg and his warriors stood nearby, their battle sticks ready. The young men standing guard heard rustling among the mountain rocks. Suddenly, a huge saber-toothed tiger leapt out and landed with a growl. The man shouted, "Matcha," but his shout was cut short as the tiger swatted him with its claws. The other young men threw their battle sticks at the tiger, piercing its side, but they didn't affect the tiger at all. The tiger was infected. It was just as mindless as the infected humans, and it craved blood. They could see that the tiger had a huge wound in its neck, and pieces of its body had been eaten off. Karg's warriors kept attacking the tiger with their battle sticks, but they couldn't kill it, only disabled one of its legs. Karg rushed to the tiger, shouting "Daka." Karg used his full strength to strike the tiger on its head. The tiger turned its head to look at Karg. Then Karg landed a heavy blow again on the tiger's head, this time crushing its skull and killing it. The food-gathering women quickly returned to the cave, having collected very little food. The cave was a safe haven to the tribe. For the time being, they would stay into cave. The cave overlooked a rock plateau beneath. As time went on, they noticed that the matcha were appearing on the plateau below the cave. The matcha could sense the presence of dozens of warm-blooded creatures in the cave. Moans were heard coming from below, and Karg and other tribes members came out of the cave to see dozens of the infected milling about and looking up at the cave. The matcha. The height of the cave was their protection. A few of the matcha tried climbing the rock face but fell back down due to the steepness of the rock face. As time went on, more and more matcha gathered below, and the decision was made to avoid a direct battle with them, and hope that they would eventually lose interest. But they were wrong. The matcha had destroyed almost all of the warm-blooded creatures in the valley, and they were craving the last ones, the humans who were hiding in the cave. After a few days, the tribes needed more food. Trips were made up the mountain to gather plant roots, berries, and nuts to feed the cave dwellers, as well as Karg's tribe. The occasional goat or rabbit supplemented their diet with much-needed protein. A babbling brook provided fresh water, which they gathered in water skins. Caution was the best policy the tribes could have, as the matcha below stayed and kept trying to get at the warm-blooded humans. It was noticed that during the daytime most of the matcha became dormant due to the heat of the sun. They would lean over and stay completely still. Some of the cave people wondered if this might be a good time to attack them, but there were too many, so they did not dare do a direct attack on the matcha. After about 30 days, the matcha seemed to be getting weaker, as they had run out of warm-blooded sustenance. Some of the matcha just fell flat and seemed to die. When this pattern continued, Karg and his warriors devised a plan to attack the weak matcha. Guided by the cave people, Karg's warriors descended from the rock cliff and began to swing their battle sticks at the heads of the matcha. Some of the matcha responded and began to attack the warriors, but they were slow and weak. Being very careful not to get bitten, Karg and his warriors destroyed almost 100 matcha. Counting themselves lucky to have received no injuries, they returned to the cave. More trips were made by Karg's warriors to destroy matcha as they found them to be weak now. This action destroyed most of the matcha. The cave people burned the bodies of the matcha. The matcha had followed a simple instinct to attack and eat warm-blooded creatures. But they didn't know how to give up and kept trying to get at the cave people until they weakened and starved to death. In the next weeks, the land in the valley was reclaimed. Humans could travel safely. Animals also began to reappear. Karg's tribe set up a new village in the valley, which was now free of the matcha threat. The dangerous bacteria from the meteor had died off. Karg's leadership had protected the tribe and ultimately defeated the matcha. He could now sleep peacefully in his tent once again.